Lately, X-Transbots has been upping their game, trying to create a more premium product so they can charge a more premium price. They're trying to compete more heavily with Fanstoys. I've already made a video about the rivalry between X-Transbots and Fanstoys, so I don't want to cover that much ground in this video, but today I want to talk about the higher price point, the premium X-Transbots, and do they compare to Fanstoys as well as they think they do? We're going to talk about this coming up. So I don't want to tread too much ground on just the rivalry alone, but the rivalry is still strong between X-Transbots and Fanstoys. Got a lot of examples in here, and it just kind of shows that it's still alive and well, and guess what? Competition is good. Now, of course, X-Transbots got their Arcos out, and that's their version of Beachcomber. First, it was a pretty good figure. It was the best one on the market. A lot of people liked it. I know that thing was selling at a huge premium for a while, like $150 to $200. And then down the road, X-Transbots, of course, cannibalized himself by reissuing them a lot of times. But Fanstoys took the shot at it, and I think they did a pretty good job. I think the Fanstoys version is a pretty nice figure. My wheel broke. Nothing broke on my X-Transbots there, but very few Fanstoys figures of mine have ever broke, and it was really a shocker when that happened. But I think the Fanstoys figure is good, and I kind of like the bigger size and the cleaner aesthetic in bot mode. Then again, I do still like the alt mode on Arcos. There's some things to like about both of these figures, and there is the competition. Then we're talking old X-Transbots. The next shot that Fanstoys took at X-Transbots and one-upping on their old design is with Cyclonus. Now, the X-Transbots version was a good version, but Fanstoys does feel a little bit more premium. Again, this is old X-Transbots, and the Fanstoys is a lot slimmer and sleeker, but the design is extremely similar, and the transformation is very similar, although a lot of people argue it's not. It's about 80% the same. But looking at this, Fanstoys does put out a much more premium version than what X-Transbots did right here. I do want to point out, I still have my X-Transbots version. I do like the variety in this character and having several of this character on my shelf, and it does kind of break it up instead of having a bunch of Quiduses on my shelf. Before we turn the tables back on the Fanstoys, got a bunch of questions here like, why did X-Transbots never put out their Galvatron? And a lot of people were looking forward to it, excited about it, the abandoning of Abaddon. This would have been a good figure. Now, it did need some tweaks and stuff, but I personally think X-Transbots felt like they were not going to beat Fanstoys, so why bother move on to another project? That's my belief, and I'm sticking with it. On the other end of the token, how come Fanstoys has not made their own interpretation of Scourge? So I start to wonder that. Do they look at what X-Transbots did and say, we can't beat that? Well, I guarantee you that's not the reason. But I start to wonder, well, why are you dialing out a whole shelf and leaving out a character? And if Fanstoys did their Scourge, he'd be taller and it would be more in line with what Fanstoys has already done. I would be interested in seeing it, although I do really like the X-Transbots version, both of them. Now, getting into where X-Transbots started to turn the tide on Fanstoys and really started to step up to be more premium with their Neptune. Their Neptune is a very good figure. Transformation's relatively smooth. Figure looks great in both modes. I still think it's the best looking version. In fact, if you were to put all these up here, I would think that that would be a Fanstoys figure, the Neptune. But the Spindrift 1.0, I got it and I was like, this is it for the Minibot. I didn't really think it was all that great, but I did feel the heft and the weight behind it. In fact, it might weigh more than Neptune. Neptune doesn't have any or hardly any diecast in it. Of course, the Spindrift does. That's a classic Fanstoys. But Fanstoys has to hit back with their 2.0, and will their 2.0 be better than Neptune? Well, that's going to be up to individual taste, and it's going to be mileage may vary if you like the design better. I mean, that's just where it is with it. But Fanstoys is fighting back because X-Transbots did such a good job. Begun the Minosaur Wars have, and I was kind of hoping they'd be done by now. We've got two of them completely done. Still waiting on Fanstoys to put theirs up. But talking about these Minosaur figures, this is where we start to see X-Transbot trying to step up and be more premium with the really expensive trailer, and it was not very much fun to transform. The base mode, I think, is completely irrelevant. I know a handful of people that are excited about it, but I am not one of those, and I'll probably never see that base mode again. But is it worth the $200 price point? Now, $200 is what it was at the show Z price, and the other people were paying like the $230, and then we have the pack. I'm not going to relive that whole nightmare again. Here's where I'm at. It's not a fun transformation. It's a little bit intuitive if you're going straight from trailer to the bot mode. But if you stop at that base mode, it's not intuitive at all. And once you have it built and you put it in your display, it stands solid. If you move it around and fiddle with it too much, you got to kind of tab some stuff back in, or at least mine, that's mine. So with that, I love the way this one looks. It looks great on my shelf. It looks great in my display, even though not 100% painted, just the way they did it and the way they went about it, I think it looks amazing on my shelf. That being said, what's Fanstoys going to look like? What's Fanstoys going to be like? How's it going to hold up? What's the hardware going to be like when it weighs 14 pounds? I mean, I don't know how much it's going to weigh, but it's going to be a big, heavy beast of a combiner. And again, X-Transbots is doing their first combiner. Fanstoys is doing their first combiner. We still haven't seen an actual prototype of a combined Fanstoys yet. And at this point, we had several shows where X-Transbots showed off their version, and people were laughing and making fun of it. So that's getting into the bot mode. Now, this is kind of one of those debates here. If you just want your X-Transbots to be in bot mode and not combined, then it's the best value on the market, hands down. The individual bots are the cheapest. If you don't buy the trailer, you don't buy any of the accessories, and you just have them standing on your shelf, it is the best value. A lot of people like the size of the bots. They say that the limbs are the size of the masterpiece autos. I'm not really into that scale. I think that the autos are too small. The car bots are too small. I like the size of Fanstoys and DX9, which are comparable, much better than X-Transbot size. Now, that's my personal preference. But then again, it's how you see them, how you see the characters, and how you judge your scale. Now, I think that things scale better with both Fanstoys, and I think they scale the best with DX9. But looking at these two companies, looking at them side by side, looking at the premium feel, Fanstoys still does feel more premium, and they are still going to run over $100 more for the set when it's all said and done. Comparisons out of the way, I was a little surprised of the lack of hardware like ratchets in hips and stuff with this figure, but it seems as though it's holding fine for now. But will it hold fine for the long run, for the long term? There were a couple of real interesting things. I actually do like how the cars connect to the back with the faux wheels. I thought that was a really good idea. So there's a lot to like about this. There's a lot to enjoy, but it is possibly, and I'm going to use this term a few more times, over-engineered. There is a chance this thing is just over-engineered. And there's a point at which you just have to have a stable, solid figure. I think DX9 did that really well. So next up, we're starting to look at the current, the now, the here and the now, and the future, and what's going on with X-Transbots. So they're taking on Fanstoys with Cup and their Lock figure versus Fanstoys Coot figure. Now, I've had Coot on my shelf for so long that I had to stop and think, is that really what this character is supposed to look like? Is that Cup? Because that's kind of turned into my Cup because I see it every day. I don't say I go back and watch the movie and the show every day, but I see Coot every day. So when I went back and looked, there are some things about the X-Transbot that is more true to the actual animation. And so with that, it does carry some sort of an interesting take on the character. And he does look pretty good. I've seen multiple reviews, and I've seen a lot of people saying that they've gotten their figure broken. So when you look at this, yes, mileage may vary. Yes, there's going to be at least a 1.5%. So maybe even 50 of these things showing up just broken, a 1.5% defect rate. I would hope it would be lower than that, but that's generally how much it is. So when you're looking at this, this type of situation, how much did this figure cost? Well, this figure is $160. Now that is very expensive. I think that is maybe a little bit too much for this figure. I don't have it in hand. I can't speak to it, so I really can't say till I get it and tell you about how it feels, how it works, and all that stuff. But I can tell you that Coot is a really solid figure. I know the transformation's a bear, but he's a really solid figure. And they recently got a reissue, or they let a few more fall off the truck for $130. So now I have my own beliefs that if they fire it up and actually produced another run, will it still be $130? Who knows? But I was expecting 100. I was expecting the cup, the lock figure from X-Transbots to be 100 and below the price of Fanstoys, and not $30 more. So should they be charging a premium? From what I'm seeing, I'm not going to speak to it yet. I'm going to let people say it in the comments, but I'm a little concerned about them charging a premium for their cup. But when it comes to this figure, I have been saying for almost 2.5 years now that I believe it will be the best. I believe it will be worth every penny versus all of the competition out there. Yeah, you could get a figure for $130. Yeah, you could get a figure for $60. You can get these other figures. I think I got my Apache for $130, $133 or something like that from Show Z Right when it came out, the first run. And I have to say that I had Apache in hand, but I looked at the pictures of Virtus from X-Transbots, and I thought, I want the X-Transbots one. I think it will still be better than this. So, with that aside, it's a $200 figure. And Fanstoys comes out with their reissue, or more of them falling off the truck, for $209. So technically, it's still more expensive to get the Fanstoys older mold than to get the new X-Transbots. So X-Transbots isn't outpricing the competition this go around. But it's more of Fanstoys saying that they feel like their product is way more premium and worth more. That's the way I see it. And the alleged reissue, or more of them coming out, sold out fast, like almost instantly, which is another way of saying, people saying, yeah, I'd rather have the Fanstoys. But once this comes out and it gets reviewed and people start seeing reviews of it, start seeing side-by-side comparisons, I still believe in Virtus. I believe X-Transbots is still going to win this one. I can't wait to get it, and I hope I'm not eating my words. So what else does the future hold? Well, the future also holds a Trailbreaker war that's about to break out eventually, or one day in the near or maybe distant future. So X-Transbots already has their Trailbreaker out. They already put out a couple of runs of the first one. Then they did another run with a more tuned deco, and I think the first one was best. I think the first one, I like the kind of the silver versus the white on those parts, but still, either one of them are great. The figure works great. People complain about the shoulders. I actually never really had any trouble with the shoulders myself. I know they aren't the greatest in articulation, but I still get everything I need out of them. But a lot of people out there say they're waiting for Outrider. They're waiting for the Fanstoys. The Fanstoys does look good. And I'm starting to wonder now, since X-Transbots came out originally at $80, now they're charging $130, and Outrider is going to be $150. Is this thing from Fanstoys going to be better and warrant a higher price than X-Transbots? Because I think X-Transbots already doing a pretty good job with theirs. It's going to be interesting to see how this shapes up. Now into some more of this premium stuff that we have gotten from X-Transbots. This is Here and Now, and I did a review on this thing. Go watch it. And one of the flaws was it does hang up. It turns out one of the screws, the screw that holds the top down, is a little too tight. And after I kind of kept messing with it and kept showing the kids and the wife, which the kids seemed to care, but my wife did not for some reason. I couldn't figure that one out. It's just really cool. Anyhow, it started working on its own and not hanging up anymore. So it hasn't hung up since like 3 days now. So I've had it and it's in my display and I can still just run it and it doesn't hang up. So I gotta say, some of my negative thoughts on this are kind of dissipating and going away since the review, because it's kind of worked itself out and it's very premium. Maybe it's too big. Now I got another complaint. Maybe it's too big now that's in my display. It's huge. It's massive, but it does look amazing. I question the colors they use too, and I like it now. In the display, I think it's a beautiful figure, or I guess, I don't know if you call it a figure, but a beautiful piece in my display that works properly. So another question is, are we all going to get past this whole trailer situation and possibly what seems to be a big coot problem with X-Transbots and be excited about the Omnibots and all the other future things that are coming from them? Are we going to be excited about that? Are we going to be on board with that? I can tell you I am. I'm interested in seeing these Omnibots. I think this is going to be back to basics, grassroots types of figures that are just basic. They transform from one thing into another. They don't seem to appear too overly complicated. They seem relatively simple, not the over-engineered stuff that they've been working on lately. Now, maybe these are even older designs, who knows, but I'm excited about these figures, and I'm excited about a lot of things that X-Transbots is doing in the future. We haven't heard the price yet. That might kill my excitement. And the last question I really have going forward when it comes to X-Transbots is, when they make their Defensor, we're starting a Defensor war. We've already had MMC announce theirs, but it's not the same scale. So they're not really competing head to head. But will Fanstoys throw their hat in the ring? Will Fanstoys be part of this? How many people will trust X-Transbots? How many people are actually going to trust X-Transbots with another combiner after what happened with this past one? Well, personally, I don't think that their Minosaur was a bad Minosaur. And I think that it still looks premium. I think they're expecting too much money for what they're putting out. So we got to look at pricing on this, and I'm hoping they're more upfront with us on how it combines, the combined parts, where it's going to be. I know that they have a Facebook page and you can ask questions and they kind of get back to you sometimes and sometimes they don't. So what is the future with X-Transbots? It does look like they're in the game for a while with a lot of plans for future releases, and I'm still excited for the company. And if Fanstoys decides to make an Defensor 2, we have absolutely no idea how either of their combiners have worked out at this point, so the trust is there just because of their reputation. Just because they have delivered solid individual figures all this time, people are still counting on Fanstoys to be a great combiner. We'll see that coming up. So what do you guys think about X-Transbots and their high-end premium pricing? What do you think about even this figure right here having a reissue with a high-end premium paint job and a high-end premium price? Are they on par with Fanstoys? Are they neck and neck with Fanstoys? Do you like Fanstoys way better? Let me know in the comments below. And what do you see in the future of X-Transbots? Like, subscribe to the Hanger out.